Okay, so get ready because today we're doing things a little differently. We're diving headfirst into the mysterious world of alchemy. But before you picture any bubbling cauldrons or, sorcerers hunched over strange ingredients, this deep dive is a little more introspective, I guess you could say.
Yeah, it's definitely a different take on alchemy than what you might find on, say, a History Channel special.
Right, we're cracking open the Spanish text that's all about alchemy, but not turning lead into gold. This is alchemy for the soul.
Yeah, it's funny because when you think about it, the idea of alchemy, transforming something ordinary into something extraordinary, that really resonates with the whole self-improvement journey, doesn't it?
Totally. It's like taking the raw materials of your life, your experiences, your challenges, and using them to create something amazing.
Mm-hmm.
But where do we even begin with this? I mean, it all sounds a bit, mystical.
Well, this source dives right in with this. Well, it's an acronym, actually. VITRIOL.
VRIO, like the acid.
It does sound kind of intimidating, right?
Just a tad.
But it's actually a Latin phrase. Visita interiora terra rectificando in venis occultum lapidem.
Okay, I'm going to need a translation on that one.
It means, visit the interior of the earth, rectifying, you will find the hidden stone.
Okay, so not about acid then.
Not literally, no. This is where the metaphor comes in. See, the earth they're talking about, it's your inner world, your thoughts, your beliefs, those hidden parts of yourself.
So less about digging in the dirt, more like digging into who we are deep down.
Exactly. And that hidden stone, that's like the essence of you, your true potential just waiting to be discovered.
Okay, so how do we start excavating this hidden stone? Do we need an inner pick and shovel?
Well, the source talks about how it's not just about introspection, it's about action. It's about confronting your flaws, your weaknesses, those base metals within, and actively transmuting them into something stronger, more authentic.
So it's not enough to just think happy thoughts. You've got to get your hands dirty, so to speak, and really do the work.
Yeah, exactly. And speaking of getting your hands dirty, one of the things I love about this source is that it's full of these vivid symbols, almost like a secret language for this inner work. Like take the dragon, for example.
Okay, dragons. Now we're talking. I have to admit, I'm a sucker for a good dragon story. But what do dragons have to do with any of this?
Well, in alchemy, the dragon often represents those primal instincts and desires that we often try to repress, the stuff we try to keep hidden. But here's the interesting part. Alchemy isn't about slaying the dragon.
Wait, really? That's kind of a game changer. Usually the hero is supposed to slay the dragon.
Right. But in this case, it's about confronting it, understanding it, and ultimately integrating its energy into your being.
So it's more about taming the beast within than banishing it altogether.
You got it. It's about harnessing that raw power and using it for good. And another symbol this source keeps coming back to is the Star of Solomon. Those two interlocking triangles.
I think I've seen that before.
Yeah.
What's the alchemical take on that one?
Well, it represents the union of opposites. The masculine and feminine, intellect and intuition, even fire and water. Things that seem like they wouldn't go together. But the Star of Solomon suggests that true balance, true wholeness, comes from integrating these seemingly opposing forces within ourselves.
That's like finding the yin to your yang, that perfect inner harmony.
Right, absolutely. And speaking of harmony, this source doesn't shy away from, a topic that might make some people a little uncomfortable.
Oh, and what would that be?
We're talking about the role of sexual energy in personal transformation.
Okay, now that's not something you hear every day. Sex and spirituality. How does that even work?
So it's not about suppressing your desires, but more about, transforming them into something, higher, I guess you could say.
Okay, I'll be honest, this is definitely a new perspective for me. But how do they say you actually do that? How do you transform desire?
Well, the source uses this analogy of an alchemist working with fire. Fire, right? It can be, destructive if it's not controlled. But in the hands of an alchemist, fire becomes this tool for refinement, for purification.
I see. So it's like you're taking that raw energy, that heat, and instead of letting it burn you, you use it to forge something new.
Exactly. And in the same way, they believe that sexual energy, when it's, consciously directed, it can actually fuel your spiritual growth. It's like it helps you burn away the impurities, the things that are holding you back.
Wow, that's quite an image. It's like our inner world has its own elements to master. So we've talked about the dragon, the Star of Solomon, but there's this other concept that keeps popping up, this second birth. What exactly does that mean in this context?
Right, so we're all born once, into this physical world, but the alchemists, they believed that we have the potential to be born again, but this time spiritually.
Okay, so not a literal second birth, but like a spiritual awakening.
Yeah, you could say that. It's about shedding those old patterns, those limiting beliefs that keep us, trapped, and then like emerging as this more refined, more authentic version of ourselves.
It's like that saying, you have to break a few eggs to make an omelet. Like you have to let go of the old you to make way for the new.
Exactly. It's a process of transformation. And to kind of illustrate this, the source uses the example of the pilgrimage to Santiago de Compostela, that ancient pilgrimage.
Yeah, I've heard of it. So we're not talking about an actual pilgrimage, are we? We don't have to pack our bags.
No, not literally. Think of it more like a metaphor. So imagine a pilgrim, right? Setting off on this journey. They're going to face all sorts of challenges along the way. Mountains to climb, deserts to cross, moments of doubt, exhaustion. It's tough. But it's through those trials, those challenges, that they're transformed.
So we're all on our own Camino, facing those metaphorical mountains and valleys within ourselves.
That's it. It's about the inner journey, the obstacles we overcome, and how they shape us. And to navigate this inner pilgrimage, to understand those challenges, this source gives us some tools, like these alchemical symbols, to help us along the way. We've already talked about the dragon, the Star of Solomon, but there's also this whole system of alchemical colors, each one representing a different stage in the transformation process.
Okay, now this is where things get really interesting for me. Color. Tell me more. I'm intrigued.
So it starts with black, which, might seem a bit ominous, but it's not necessarily a bad thing. It represents the initial state, like the darkness before the dawn, or the fertile soil before a seed sprouts.
Right, like a blank canvas, full of potential, but nothing's been painted on it yet. What comes after black?
Next comes white, which represents purification. This is where you start to shed those old habits, those limiting beliefs that we talked about earlier. It's like hitting the reset button.
So black is the starting point. White is like cleansing the palette, getting ready for something new. What's next?
Yellow, the color of, sunshine, of energy. And in alchemy, it represents preparation, like getting ready for something big.
Yellow, the color of optimism. I can see that, like the buildup, that anticipation before a big event. But every good story has a climax.
Yeah.
What's the final color? What's the grand finale of this alchemical transformation?
Red, the color of fire, of passion, and ultimately of transmutation. This is where it all comes together, that complete transformation.
So, if I'm understanding this right, it's like this whole journey, all these colors, are about taking those raw materials within us, our flaws, our shadows, even our desires, and somehow transforming them into something, extraordinary.
Yes. It's about refining ourselves, like gold in a furnace, to reach our full potential. But, it's not always easy. This inner alchemy, it takes effort, it takes work. And that's why the source emphasizes the importance of right action.
Right action, meaning like living with integrity, walking the talk.
Exactly. It's about aligning your actions with your values, with the person you're becoming on this path. But let's be real, we all have those moments where we know what we should do, but then life happens, emotions get in the way. How do we deal with that inner struggle? Well, this source talks about the importance of not just, suppressing those negative emotions, but actually transmuting them.
Wait, hold on. Transmuting emotions?
Yes.
How is that even possible? It's not like we could just, wave a magic wand and turn anger into joy.
Right. It's not magic. It's about first, really understanding those emotions. What's causing them? Where are they coming from? And then finding a way to channel that energy into something more constructive, something positive.
So not just ignoring those negative feelings, but actually transforming them into something better.
Exactly. It's about taking that raw emotional energy and finding a way to redirect it, to use it as fuel for growth. It's like even in the midst of those, difficult emotions, those challenging times, there's this opportunity for learning, for growth. And sometimes we need a little help navigating those challenges, right? And this source really stresses the importance of having a mentor, someone who's walked the path before you, who can offer guidance and support.
Right, because even Frodo had Gandalf, someone to help you make sense of the map, so to speak.
Exactly. We all need a Gandalf in our lives, someone who can help us, see the path more clearly, to stay on track when things get tough. And this whole idea, this journey of self-discovery, this alchemy of the soul, It's pretty amazing stuff, wouldn't you say?
Absolutely. And the source, with all its talk of dragons and pilgrimages and hidden symbols, it definitely takes you on a journey. So what other surprises does it have in store for us?
Well, one of the things that really surprised me about this source is how it connects alchemy to get this, Christianity.
Alchemy and Christianity. Now that's an unexpected pairing. I always thought of alchemy as like this separate thing, all about ancient secrets and esoteric knowledge. How could they possibly be connected?
Right. It seems kind of strange at first, but the more you dig into it, the more you start to see these hidden connections. The alchemists, they were really good at weaving together these different traditions, finding these points of intersection between, seemingly different ideas.
Okay, my curiosity is definitely piqued. Give me an example. How do they connect something like alchemy with Christian beliefs?
Well, the source talks about how they use the pelican, that bird,
Yeah.
as a symbol of, believe it or not, Christ himself.
A pelican. That seems a little out there, even for alchemy.
Yeah.
What do pelicans have to do with, Christian theology?
So back in medieval times, there was this belief that pelicans, they would pierce their own breasts to feed their young with their blood, which, is a pretty intense image, right?
Yeah.
But they saw it as this ultimate act of self-sacrifice.
Oh, I see what you mean. It's like giving everything, even a part of yourself, to nourish and care for another.
Exactly. And the alchemists, they saw this parallel between the pelican and, Christ's sacrifice on the cross, this idea of offering yourself for the salvation of humanity. They were both seen as these incredibly selfless acts of love and redemption.
So even though they were coming from these different traditions, they were finding this common ground in the themes of sacrifice, redemption, and ultimately transformation. It's pretty amazing how these ideas can transcend time and culture. Are there any other examples of this crossover between alchemy and Christianity?
Oh yeah, definitely. For example, remember how we talked about the alchemists' idea of a second birth, that spiritual transformation? Well, they saw connections between that and the Christian concept of baptism, this idea of, being reborn, cleansed of your past sins and starting anew. They saw both of these as symbols of spiritual renewal. It's like they were speaking two different languages, but saying the same thing.
Right. Like they were finding different ways to express these universal truths about the human experience, the search for meaning, for connection, for something greater than ourselves. It's pretty powerful stuff when you think about it.
It really is. And this idea of connecting seemingly disparate things like they did with alchemy and Christianity, I think that's such a powerful reminder for us today that, we don't have to see everything as separate as either. There's so much we can learn when we start looking for the connections, the common threads that run through different cultures, different belief systems, and who knows what we might discover in the process.
I love that. It's about keeping an open mind, being willing to bridge those gaps and see the world through different lenses. And, this whole deep dive has really opened my eyes to this whole other side of alchemy, this idea of personal transformation, of finding that, what do they call it, that philosopher's stone within.
Right. That hidden potential that we all have inside us.
It's inspiring, really. It's like this reminder that we're all capable of growth, of change, of becoming something more than we were yesterday.
Exactly. It's about tapping into that inner alchemist, experimenting, refining ourselves, and never giving up on the journey. Because who knows, maybe we'll actually find that philosopher's stone along the way.
And even if we don't stumble upon the literal philosopher's stone, well, the journey itself, the process of searching, that's where the real magic happens. That's where we discover who we truly are.
Couldn't have said it better myself.
Well, there you have it, folks. Another deep dive into the mysteries of the world, and maybe even a few mysteries of ourselves. Until next time, keep exploring, keep asking questions, and remember, the journey of self-discovery is just beginning.